So just a month before, I think it was August 13th, 2001, I was at the MEPS in Milwaukee doing all the paperwork and going through all the physical evaluation to join the Marine Corps. I was joining up. I was kind of bored with school. High school was never really a challenge for me, and I wanted to go push myself and find something that was really going to challenge me. And which is why I chose the Marine Corps. I was like, hey, these guys, this is the toughest branch, this is the hardest boot camp. I want to go do this. So I went to boot camp in the summer of 2002, the Marine Corps Recruit Depot, San Diego. I went through all my training, boot camp training there. Went to School of Infantry at Camp Pendleton in California, and then on to another school out in Virginia. I served 2 years with the Marine Corps Security Forces Company in Washington State, basically doing guard duty, high-level guard duty. And then after that, I went to 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines in 29 Palms. From there, I went to Iraq. So I was in Iraq. I got into Iraq in September of 2005, and we were in Ramadi, Iraq, and I was there about 3.5 months before I got injured. And that December of 2005, my unit was dropping off a squad from another platoon out in the city, and we went and dropped them off for their patrol, and we were on our way back, and I was the vehicle commander for the second vehicle, and we had passed right over an IED, but the big troop truck that we had used to drop off the squad from the other platoon that was behind me got hit with the IED instead. Doc and I and my dismount all went back to the truck to try and get these guys out of the truck, because there was a driver and an assistant driver with them. We had already called the CASEVAC, our casualty evacuation team, to get them out of there, and they were just showing up on scene. They were backing a truck up towards us as we were getting them out. They got about halfway out onto the stretcher, and they blew the second one on us. They were just waiting to get as many people around as they could. Everything that hit us was shrapnel that passed underneath the vehicle. So it basically cut us all off at the knees. We ended up with 4 double amputees, 1 single amputee, and then we did lose one guy who was providing security. He was taking a knee at the time, so he took it all to the body instead of the legs like we did. So it was only, from blast to when they got us to the hospital, it was only about 14 minutes, and my heart had already stopped at that point, and we were in pretty rough shape. Started taking blood donations, and all the guys who weren't hurt were giving their blood to save us. So, and then from there they flew us to Baghdad, Balad, and then to Germany, where they stabilized us and held us for a few days until they could stabilize us well enough to get us back stateside. I was the last one to get stateside. The incident was December 7th, and actually December 12th, they finally flew me back stateside into Andrews Air Force Base in DC, and then I went to Bethesda for all my surgeries and everything like that. I spent about 1.5 months at Bethesda while I was going through all my surgeries, skin grafts for my burns. I have burns on my left arm and shoulder, my lower back, and then missing both my legs. So they patch up the legs, get all the infections out, do all the skin grafting. The process took us probably about 25 surgeries to get it all taken care of over that 1.5 months. Hospital. We all kind of left at different times, but I spent about a year in the hospital at Walter Reed, just rehabbing and everything, and getting back to walking and learning how to do everything again. So. We had found out about Homes for Troops. Actually, they had just kind of started when I was in the hospital, so I always knew of them. They built the first home back in 2004, 2005 time frame, and I got hurt in 2005. spent 06 in the hospital. So I knew a couple guys that they had built homes for early on, probably the first, probably 2 or 3, 4 guys who they had built homes for. So I knew of them, but I wasn't quite sure what it was all about. I moved to Wisconsin. We had lived in a rental. We had bought our own place, but it wasn't accessible by any means. It was what we could afford and what we could find. And when I left the hospital, I was 23 actually. I wasn't quite sure what I was going to need for as far as accessibility. I thought I could just do everything and it was going to be no big deal. And I quickly realized, especially after I had kids, that there was a lot of things that I was going to need help with. And there was things that we couldn't do ourselves. 2009. So it was several years later, after I left the hospital, we looked them up and said, hey, this looks like something we might be interested in. And, for my wife and I, we had always done everything ourselves. We never asked for help from any organizations or everything, so it was a very hard decision for us. We weighing the pros and cons. We'd always been very independent. Even though there's so many wonderful organizations out there, we had just always kind of did everything ourselves. And this was one thing that we just couldn't do ourselves. And we went to Boston, saw what they had to offer, talked to them about everything, and it was a great fit. It worked great for us. We're starting the build of our new home down here in Texas, and I couldn't be happier. I mean, I sit here today, in my dining room here, and I look around and go, I live here. This is my home. It's fantastic, and the accessibility is so noticeable right away. Just from the first night we lived here, I'm rolling around, moving boxes, and unpacking and doing all that crazy stuff that comes with moving, and it's like, oh man, I can actually get around. I don't have to worry about smashing into everything all the time. Doorways, corners, getting trapped in little spots where I can, get stuck with the wheelchair. I didn't have to worry about it anymore. For an everyday life, for everything that we have to do is, just not even as just individuals, but as parents, husbands, wives, whatever. Having the ability to get around in your own home and being able to do everything, do the laundry, do the dishes, take care of the kids, is so essential just to trying to get back to that normalcy that we all want. Nobody wants to be just a wounded guy forever. We want to go to school, get a job, have a family, live a normal life, and this is such a huge step towards that. Has done so many great things, and they're still building all these homes. They have tons of veterans waiting for homes, and they're going to take care of them. They won't accept someone unless they already have the money to back it up. So everyone who's already accepted, they already have the money to build them a home. Mm-hmm. All the fundraising goes to the next home and the next home and the next home, and it's such a fantastic situation. Think of us. Our troops, and then sponsors like HARDI and have come in and helped out, and every little contribution helps, and everything goes towards these homes and getting them right, and getting the veterans that need them what they need. So